Hello to all of our viewers at home who weren't able to come tonight. We thank you for tuning in. We're here to learn about affordable housing that's coming to downtown Larchmont. Along with the League of Women Voters, this event is co-sponsored by the Hispanic Resource Center, Pine Brook Association, the Summit, and Washingtonville Housing Alliance. We have with us tonight County Legislator Judy Myers. Welcome.
Thank you.
The developer of the new housing is Balter Partners. Balter Partners, with its affiliates, is an industry leader in the production of creatively planned residential, commercial, and master planned developments. Balter Partners specializes in market rate and luxury housing, as well as assisted living and affordable housing. Balter Partners is a large multi-family housing owner, builder, and manager with investment management activities in 4 states. Balter has completed over 30 residential communities totaling about 3,000 units. In Westchester County, Balter has completed 17 residential communities in 8 municipalities. 3 of these communities have been affordable housing, including 2 affordable housing condominium developments that are similar in many ways to Balter's proposed Larchmont development. The 2-building, 51-unit condominium development in Larchmont presented tonight will satisfy the affordable housing obligation arising out of the Flint Park redevelopment project that required that 35 affordable housing units be in the construction pipeline by 2012. We'll begin tonight with a presentation followed by audience questions. Here to discuss a description of the units, sale pricing, and marketing of this new housing in our community is the Balter in Balter. Please welcome Bill Balter.
Thank you.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you very much. Beth, thanks very much. Thank you all for coming. For those of you watching, thank you for watching. I'm very excited to talk about our new community. Beth did a great job. You did all the introductions. I don't have to do the introductions, so I'm going to just leave the additional introductions to the people who are with me on our team. Rose Noonan with the Housing Action Council. The Housing Action Council is our nonprofit housing partner, and Rose will be speaking about certain elements of this tonight. Vinnie Malusi from Warshauer, they're our architect for this development. And then Jim Wendling, who works for me for Balter Partners, he's our development manager for this development. He also grew up in Larchmont and has family here now. As Beth said, the format of tonight is I'm going to give a short presentation. I'll try to really keep it pretty short because I think what I really want to do is answer questions. I think everyone in the audience and at home have varying degrees of knowledge about what's proposed. So I'm going to quickly go through kind of from the beginning, but then at the end I'll leave plenty of time for questions, and hopefully I can be helpful with that. About me, I'm president of Balter Partners. I grew up in Hastings. I now live in Mount Kisco. I've lived there with my family for 17 years. We are very much a part of Westchester, and I think we'll probably always live here. Now my kids are competing to come back and live in the garage in our house, so I think they want to stay here. They want to stay here too. Okay, so this property was the former Collins Brothers moving site. This, I don't know if you can see it in the audience or if you can see it on the camera, but basically this is the site. Let me just stand in front of it. So when you look at the site, it goes from here, basically up to here. You can walk up to the Metro North train station up here. It's a really very well located site. It's roughly about somewhere between probably about a quarter of a mile walk to the Metro North train station. It's in the downtown. It's as I said, the former Collins Brothers moving site, and if you were to go out there now, it's probably as close to a blighted site as there is in Larchmont. It's a site that's very underutilized. It has cars stored on it, trucks stored on it, construction equipment stored on it, but it's really just a site that is in pretty poor condition. The current owner started the approval process for a 59-unit development in early 2005. 3.5 years later, what he got approved wasn't 59 units, it was 51 units. And it was approved in August of 2008. I want to stress that what we've decided to do is the planning board, many of the citizens here, a lot of other citizens, had tremendous input in this development. So what we've decided to do with the development is we're building it exactly as it was approved. So it was approved as 51 units, 10 one-bedrooms, 41 two-bedrooms. The units are actually pretty large. All the two bedrooms have 2 baths. 4 of the 2 bedrooms have dens. Again, it's exactly what was approved. One of the unusual things for this type of housing is that it has underground parking. So basically the parking is not underground, but under the building parking. So on the grade level is parking. On top of that, there's 3 stories of buildings. So if you look at the elevations, and Vinny will take you through the architecture a little bit, but you can see this level is parking, and then above that are the residences. 100% of the units are handicapped accessible and handicapped adaptable. To achieve that in this type of configuration, each of the buildings has an elevator. Just to quickly go through other things that were required in the approvals that we're doing, there's a requirement for recreation space on site and in the buildings. There's a requirement that we have 102 parking spaces, basically 2 units, two parking spaces per unit. I think the site's probably way over parked, but that's what the approval is required, so that's at this point what we're doing. 45 of those parking spaces are under the building. I just want to take a minute now and just introduce Vinny Malusi, who's going to talk about the architecture, and then I'll return.
Thanks, Bill. The architecture of this building was really determined early on in the approvals process with a lot of dialogue with the various boards and groups involved in that approvals process, and set the tone for this. And this is, as Bill said, this is exactly what was approved. It's a Tudor-style design. It involves a stucco look, which is like a tan or cream color, if you will, with brown or what would be wood kind of appearance accents. And you could see this in the framework that you see here. You'll highlight some of the peaks and edges and bay windows and trim throughout the facade with this brown trim. There's an asphalt shingle roof, and it's just a mixture of elements that are very similar throughout the facade. Some of them will be straight facades, straight up. Others will be peaked, as I said. The base of the building in some areas will have some stone look, natural stone look to it. Each of the building entrances have a focal point with a canopy detailed, so you know this is the entrance of the building where to come. As Bill said, the bottom is open parking structure, open parking deck, and then there are 3 floors above that of the apartments in the typical apartment layouts. And that's fairly straightforward.
Yeah. By the way, when I was explaining the location, I want to just point out that this is, if you look at this, for all of you that can see it, this is Palmer Avenue. The 2 ways to enter our property are from Palmer Avenue, just past Jack's. So all of you are probably familiar with that. And then from North Avenue, at the other end, there's a drive that comes down. This kind of connects to this. So if you can imagine, North Avenue comes to this property, and then you enter this way. You can enter through the building underneath here, and there obviously are 2 buildings. On the sales side, as I said, there are 10 one-bedrooms. They're going to average, the sale price will average $160,000 for the 1-bedroom units. And then the 41 2-bedroom units, that will average about $229,000. Common charges are roughly $250 for 1-bedrooms per month, $300 for 2-bedrooms per month. Real estate taxes are roughly about $350 for a month for 1-bedroom and about $400 a month for 2-bedroom.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, $350. Talking about the real estate taxes, about $350 to $400 a month for the 1s and 2s, and that'll vary a little bit depending on the actual sales price, because the sales prices are, I told you, the averages. In terms of the incomes here, this is an affordable development. What that means in this case is that we're marketing to people who make at or below 80% of the Westchester County area median income, which is adjusted for family size. What it basically means is that depending again on the family size and depending on down payment, people will have to make probably about $59,000 to be able to afford here, and there'll be a maximum income of about $84,000. I'm going to just stop for a moment and have Rose Noonan come up and explain the marketing process, because that's something we've heard lots of questions about.
Hi, it's nice to see so many familiar faces out there that I've met over my years of working in the affordable housing field. As some of you know, the Housing Action Council is a nonprofit organization. We have been involved in helping others market and qualify purchasers of fair and affordable housing developments for many years, and I'm thankful that we have the opportunity for this one. In terms of the marketing, we will be marketing broadly. We will be marketing throughout Westchester County. We will also be marketing in the surrounding counties, including Fairfield, Putnam, Rockland, and all the boroughs of New York City. There will also be a lot of marketing here in Larchmont itself. We will be asking to distribute flyers, emails through the school district, through the village hall, through various places of employment. And just to stop there, there will be 6 of the units. Five of the units will be available on a preference basis for households who have a connection to the village. In terms of the ones that are being marketed here locally as well as more broadly, we will solicit applications. At this point in time, we're taking expressions of interest. Officially, we will start taking expressions of interest this coming Saturday at the County Fair and Affordable Home Ownership Expo, which is being held in White Plains between the hours of 10 and 3. And should people be interested in hearing more about this development, they can sign up, and that information will be provided when it is available. We will have a deadline for applications. We don't have that date set, other than I can say that it will be in June of this year. Shortly after that, there will be a lottery, and the lottery gives the people will be picked from number 1 to however many applications that we have, and people then will be qualified in that order. So it's not necessarily that the first person in the lottery is necessarily going to be the purchaser of the unit, but they will be the first one that's qualified, and should they meet the income requirements, able to secure the mortgage, cover the various charges that Bill spoke about, they will then be offered a unit in the order in which they had been qualified. I think that covers it.
Thank you. Rose's company and our company have worked on many developments together. They're really great at what they do. And one of the things that you didn't mention that they do, which is very important, is they do a lot of counseling to help people understand what they're getting into, which is, I think, a very important service. When we got into this development, one of the things that we went back to do was we started to get curious about, when we've done these other communities, and as Beth mentioned, we've done 2 other communities similar to this in Westchester. We went back on a development that we did about 17 years ago. I forget, time flies. 15 years ago, maybe? And we looked at, we did a survey of where did people actually, the people who live there now, where are they from? What's their connection? And it's really quite interesting, and I tell you this because I think it's going to be very similar to what we have here. As Rose said, we have 5 of these units in Larchmont are targeted to the Larchmont group, this preference group. So that's about 10% of the units. In the development that we surveyed, we had 10% of the units ended up going to people who had local connection in that town. In that development, which by the way is 52 units, there are 8 teachers, 2 other school district employees, 2 policemen, a fireman, a couple of bank employees, a utility company worker, 2 administrative assistants, and other retail business employees. So to a great extent, that's what we expect we're going to get here. Very similar to this development, the development that I'm speaking of, we had this local group, 10% of the people had that local connection, but we marketed broadly as we're going to be marketing broadly here. And what you tend to get, is that while they're available to everybody, typically people want to live where they have a connection. So it might be that they have parents or kids who live here. It might be they work here, White Plains, or somewhere close. it's going to be because there's a reason they want to be here. It isn't going to be just because it's an inexpensive home. People want to have a connection to where they live. And really, with very little exception, I've been doing this a long time, that's true. Really at all levels of housing. People want to live where they have a connection. Okay. Yeah, I think in closing, I wanted to just say that we really are very, very excited about this development. We didn't get it approved. We came in after it was approved. But the reason that we came in after it was approved to do this is that it's the perfect development in the perfect area. We think it's needed in Larchmont. We think it's needed in the greater area. And it's going to take a piece of property that's really very underutilized with no stormwater detention on it at all. It's going to put a stormwater system into it to control stormwater on the site. It's going to provide affordable housing. It's going to satisfy the Flint Park obligation that the village has to the county. And basically it's going to just be we think a model example of a terrific development. So we're very excited to do it. With that, we're going to take questions. I'm here, Rose is here, Vinny's here. We have all the time in the world for any questions that any of you have. Yes?
I was wondering if you could describe any kind of green technology that you're using on the building.
Okay, I'm actually glad you asked that. I should have gotten into that a little bit.
I'm not a shill.
I'm sorry? No. Well, actually, we have not decided exactly what we're doing in terms of green technology on this, but I will tell you that we are doing, right now in Putnam County, a 90-unit development that's all LEED certified. And we just got our first home certified. Some are LEED certified, some are actually LEED Gold certified. So I don't think in this type of construction that it will be LEED certified. It might be Energy Star. We're not there yet. But green is something we do a
I
lot
was
of.
thinking of a green roof or anything like that. And again, you really don't need to do LEED certification. It's very expensive, but just the technology itself.
Well, actually, there are many things about green I really like a lot. And the LEED certification, what I like about it is that it got a lot of people on board with the whole movement. So while I think it's got lots of imperfections, I actually am a big fan of LEED just because it brought so many, people get it now, and even though it's got its imperfections, I actually like it. In terms of things that we really focus a lot on that I know we'll do, we'll have a better insulation, we'll have very high efficiency HVAC, we'll probably do 95% efficient equipment here, which is typically what we do now. We'll have water saving everything, we'll do a lot of things. On other affordable developments, we're doing one in a different one in Putnam County, we're doing solar panels. I don't know what we're going to do here, we're just not there yet, but there are things that we will do. And frankly, it looks good for us, so when we decide what we're going to do, we'll announce it. We just aren't there yet.
Just one follow-up question about you near the train tracks. So,
How near?
are you doing triple pane windows or what kind
in the
of,
approvals, there was a requirement that the sound. Do you remember, Vinny, what the sound requirement was here?
I think it was 50.
50 is
50 STC.
right. So it has an STC rating that's higher than you would normally do in this type of construction. Windows are part of it, but there's a lot more than that. And I don't know if they're triple glazed. It might be that the windows that face the tracks
right.
need to be. We're not sure yet. But that's part of that is also the insulation.
What about the financing markets for mortgages and things of that sort? And what kind of terms would you expect to sell on?
When you say terms, you mean where people are going to get mortgages, typically. I mean, Rose, do you want to speak to this? One of the other hats Rose wears is with the New York Mortgage Coalition, which she runs. You're talking about end loans, right? Let me speak first about us. All of the financing we have in place now. So there were grants that were required from the county and state to make this happen, as well as construction. We have everything in place. So now I'll have Rose answer your question about end loans. Thanks.
We will be assisting families who are qualified through the mortgage approval process. We're part of a group called the New York Mortgage Coalition, which involves a consortium of lenders, including banks like Chase, Citi, M&T, Astoria, and 4 or 5 others. And they're familiar with the type of developments these have. This particular development will have a deed restriction, meaning that the resale price will be restricted for a 50-year period. And so we get pre-approvals in terms of these mortgage loans. We expect that probably about half of the loans will go through the State of New York Mortgage Agency, which has 30-year and 40-year fixed-rate financing. Currently, the interest rate is 5.25%, has a good closing cost assistance program with it. And then the other half, because Sonny Mae generally only does 50% of a condominium development, we have a number of banks, including Citibank, M&T is looking at it, and also Astoria. So the families, individuals will need to be qualified, meaning that they'll have to have sufficient income to carry the mortgages. They'll have to be credit worthy. They'll have to demonstrate an excellent rent payment history. Usually the next question people ask me is credit scores. We're fortunate through the New York Mortgage Coalition that credit scores are not the end-all and be-all of whether or not someone is able to get a mortgage, that they really will look at the history of the person. If there's extenuating circumstances of why they're a good risk, but their credit score may not be a 680 or 700, the bank will work with us to help the families and individuals secure mortgages. So we're confident that the banks are approving the project right now, and that we'll have the end loans available to qualified purchasers.
What kind of down payments are banks requiring?
In our pro formas, we're looking at a minimum 5% down payment, but for like the Sonny Mae program, State of New York Mortgage Agency, you could go as low as 3%. So we expect people to be able to put 5% or more down. Where we generally help people is in the closing cost assistance. A number of the mortgage products have some closing cost assistance with them.
You mentioned the resale price will be restricted.
Mm-hmm.
Is it indexed?
Yes, it is based on a consumer price index that's tied to what increases in wages in the area are. It's been averaging 3 to 4% for quite a long period of time. We'll have to see how it plays out over the next several years. And you also can include in that the cost of capital improvements that you may make over time, and then they're depreciated for however long afterwards. But you can add that to your resale price also.
Now, I have a question in terms of the construction process. When do you plan to break ground, and what's the timeline in terms of the length of time for construction and opening
Okay.
for residents?
So we think about it. I just did the schedule today. We intend on starting construction in the spring. The first thing that has to happen on the site is we have to do a lot of site work. We intend to start the buildings in the late summer, early fall, and have the buildings complete roughly 7 to 8 months later. So we basically think that about 15 months from now, we'll be completely done with the development.
I wanted to ask you, getting back to the issue with the sound transmission, mechanical units, how are you going to, what's the HVAC preferred system in the units?
Yeah,
Is it through the wall AC that also?
No, actually what I think might have been envisioned originally in the plans was a through-the-wall kind of system. For many reasons, we don't like them. It's not a comfortable living environment. I think, what is the latest we're doing? I'm just not sure. We end up with a split system?
There's a split system with an air handler within the unit, and then there will be condensers up on the roof, small little condensers in a bank set up and hidden on the roof structure.
Right. So there's a mansard roof on the building, so you're not going to see the units on the roof.
Are all your approvals in place right now?
Yes.
And the only thing that's waiting is to break ground in the spring when the weather?
And we have to actually get to a closing, but yes. Yeah, we have all of our approvals, there's nothing else that we're seeking.
And if for some reason there's a delay in construction, how does that impact, say, the marketing of the project and the list of interested parties?
Mm-hmm. Well, our plan still is to go out marketing now and to complete it in June. Worked a lot with Balter. It's very unusual that they don't complete their projects on time. But what we would do is anybody that comes in after June, whatever that date is that we set, we'll keep on a waiting list and then continue to take applications until the project is ready.
Let me give you another answer to that as well. What's going to happen in June is the lottery will happen. Then we have to actually go out and get from having a list to getting people in contract. The contracts will give us a certain amount of time to build a home. They'll give us a grace period of, let's say, 90 days, And if we're not done by then, if people want to get out of their contract, they can. So if we say that they're going to move in on March 1st, 2012, and we don't have them in by March, April, May, June, by June, they'll have the option to get out of their contract, let's say. I mean, it's something like that. In the 20 years I've been doing that, I don't think I've ever had that as an issue, including in the recession. So it can happen in theory, but it's not. And frankly, we'll have many more people than we expect to have, many more buyers than we have homes. So if we were to lose some because of that, there'll be other people there.
Out of curiosity, on the other affordable home housing projects that were done, how many applications actually were received? This is a ballpark.
The
In
two,
terms, I don't remember.
the two other condos we did, one was, as I said, 15 or 17 years ago. The other one was probably 19 years ago. I just don't know the answer. I mean, we had more people, obviously, than we had homes, but I can't tell you how many. And I think actually in one of them, we ended up getting to a place in one of them where we went through the whole list, and then we had to open up to the general public, because in that case, I forget, I think that was 52 units. I think we probably had a list of 80 people. I'm guessing, but let's say 80 people. But by the time you qualify, because some people are under income, some people are over income, sometimes you do go through the list. I think in Larchmont, New York, that's probably not going to happen. We're not envisioning it's going to happen. But if that does happen, you just keep marketing, just like you market any other development.
My concern is, is it hundreds or is it thousands of people on the list, which I've seen before?
Yeah, I think in a for-sale development, you're not going to get thousands of people on the list. And again, the issue is not so much how many people are on the list. The issue is more how many people are on the list in the window where they qualify.
We marketed a tax credit, a 10-unit rental building in Mamaroneck. The rent levels were proportionally low. These were people at 50%, primarily some at 30% of median. I think we had 80, there were 10 units. I think we had 80, we either had 120 or 80 total applicants. But again, as Bill said, people could be either under income or they could be over income. We had a very narrow bracket for the 50%. People had to fall between, say, $28,000 a year and $36,000 a year in family income. And we ended up, after we'd gone through the whole process of income qualification and background check, credit check, with 9 out of the 10. And we had to open it up again for the 10th. So, but again, we weren't looking at 200 or 300. People are remarkably, as Bill said, remarkably reluctant to step completely out into the unknown. So you don't get those dreaded people who arrive from Far Rockaway. They come from Far Rockaway to Larchmont.
Any other questions? Yes.
Parking, is included in the sales price, or is it additional?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
And that's for 2 spots per unit?
It is, there are 2 spots per unit. What I think will probably happen is what we would typically do is we will assign 1 space, and then there'll be open parking for the rest of the spaces.
Bill, you mentioned something about amenities on the facility. I'm not sure if you said something along those lines.
Yeah, there are a couple of recreation areas, which are just essentially sitting areas, just places to get outside. And then in the buildings, there are exercise rooms that are equipped in each building. Yes?
Is there visitor parking in the area?
Well, yeah, that's the reason you don't do all assigned parking is you need to have a place for visitors to park. And what's going to happen is, especially, I've done a lot of communities. We're buying this approved. We typically are the ones getting things approved, and I spent a lot of time in planning boards arguing against 2 parking spaces for every unit, because it's absolutely possible that a lot of people have 2 cars, but plenty of people don't have 2 cars. We have 10 one-bedrooms here. The average number of cars in your 1-bedroom units is probably going to be 1 car. There'll be certain people who don't have cars at all. There'll be certain people who have 2 cars, but it'll probably be, in the 10 units will probably have 11, 12 parking spaces. In the 41 2-bedrooms, there's not going to be 82 spaces, 82 cars. So there'll be, so that's why you don't have two assigned spaces for every unit. You do 1 assigned, you assume everyone has a car, and then the rest of the parking is open, so that if people have a second car, it's first come, first served, or, as you ask, for visitors. Yes?
Are there washer and dryers in the units, are there laundry rooms?
We wash dryer connections in every, yeah, in every, we have wash dryer connections in every unit.
In-
There's no common, we don't have a common laundry. Yes?
Who do you expect to manage, be the property manager?
Uh,
You sell out and
what-
it's not there anymore.
I always smile when I'm asked this question. What ends up happening, I've done this a long time, we own and manage about 3,000 units. We will manage the development. What ends up happening is after we sell the last unit, within a year, typically the association wants to get their own management company. It's got no affiliation with us. So we'll manage it as long as they'll have us, but they'll ultimately get their own management.
Do you have
Yes.
a maximum household size for each?
Yes. Rose, do you remember what we did? Is it 5?
It's total, maximum 6.
For the 2-bedroom?
Right.
Right.
And that would be a 2-bedroom, that's 2-bedroom plus den. is
With the
really-
den,
yeah.
yeah.
There are 4 units that have 2 bedrooms with a den. So I think that's how that was thought about. That would be possible. Yes?
What happens if repairs are needed down the road? How is that handled?
Okay, there's an association and there's a management company. Each homeowner pays dues, common charges every month. Part of their common charges goes toward regular repairs. Another part of their common charges goes into what's called a reserve fund for replacement, where we do a reserve study that says there's the X amount of asphalt. It costs Y dollars. It lasts Z number of years. You divide all of that out and it says, okay, we should be contributing to annually this amount of money to deal with the parking lot so that when it breaks, we don't have to assess everybody. So in the common charges, that's all anticipated. And there's a replacement study for everything that can go. Roof, sidewalk, asphalt, a lot of other stuff, and that's not coming to mind, but yeah. Yeah.
Bill, I'm embarrassed to ask, but one more time, could you repeat the maintenance charges and the real estate taxes for the 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms?
Yeah, they're approximate at this moment, but they're $250 and $300 for the common charges for the 1 and 2 respectively, and that's average.
Right.
The taxes are roughly $350 and $400 for the 1 and 2 bedrooms respectively per month. This is all monthly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things that is uncommon in Lower Westchester is to have a building like this that has common charges that are so low. The reason is that this is not a co-op, it's a condominium. So there's no underlying mortgage that people have to pay down the debt service on. So they're literally just paying the costs that you asked about, operating the building. Any other questions?
Rose, I had a question regarding this term, connection to the community. And from your standpoint, what does that mean? How is that defined? It seems very
I'm going to define it
loose.
for you.
Well, I have it,
For the
yeah.
workforce house.
I have it right here.
I know. Do you have the wording?
I actually brought it with me. This is right out of the approvals. I'll just read it, although it's long, so I'll kind of paraphrase it. Okay, this is, you're talking about now for the 5 units?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Eligibility, this is, again, right out of the site plan approval. Eligibility and preference to purchasers for workforce housing units. Full-time employees of the village and unpaid active volunteer members of the village's fire department. Full-time employees of the Larchmont Public Library, the Mamaroneck Union Free School District, the Larchmont Mamaroneck Joint Sanitation Commission, and active volunteers, and full-time employees of the Larchmont Mamaroneck Volunteer Ambulance Corps. There's a certain amount of time you have to be at these places. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to give you the groups for now. Applicants from the village of Larchmont who are residents of the village, who are 62 years of age or older. Part-time employees who work at least 20 hours per week and who work at least 1,000 hours per year. That's of the village of Larchmont, Mamaroneck Union Free School District. Residents who are over 21 but under, this is applicants from the village of Larchmont who are residents who are over 21 years but under 30 years and have lived in the village for at least the last 5 years. And then, I mean, it goes down to gets to residents of the village of Larchmont who have lived in the village for at least 2 of the last 5 years. So there's a very broad range. I think the idea of it when it was done, I wasn't a part of it, is, again, people who really have a connection to Larchmont. So it's pretty broad.
So where is that written?
In the site plan approval, the planning board site plan approval. It was a condition in the approvals for workforce housing for the 5 workforce housing units.
And Bill, to be clear, that's for the 5.
That's for the 5 units that have a priority.
Along the same lines, do you know why nonprofits are not included? Is it unusual or for nonprofit employees to be included?
Well, this is not people who just, this is not anyone who works in Larchmont. This is people who work for the village, the school district, the ambulance corps.
But not nonprofits?
Not for-profits either.
Serving, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just that, the village connection.
Okay.
But you mentioned.
And that's not
residents.
unusual. Both of those are not unusual. I've never seen them do it for people who actually work in the town.
I'm sorry. Residents that are seniors, say 62 and above?
62 or over, yes.
And-
What I'll do is when we're done, I'll just hand this to you. You can go through it because it's a lot of detail. So I'm really paraphrasing. I'll just give it to you.
Okay.
Yes.
The impact on the schools has been discussed before. Just to clarify what I recall about this, you would, if there are 7 children added, there will be no additional taxes. If there are more than 7 for the Chatsworth School District, then it has to be a tax increase. Can you clarify, am I right on that, or this is what I remember from the last meeting?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. The number of school-age children was, as I recall, approximated 3 different ways. And they took the highest number that it could possibly be of the 3. So of the 3 ways they looked at it. Jim, do you remember what the number was? The total number of projected additional school children?
3 to 13.
So the range was 3 to 13. So they looked at the worst case and said, if it were 13, what would it look like?
At worst case, they did 7 public, go 2 to Chatsworth.
Okay, so 7 public school, 2 to Chatsworth, and what were the other ones? Parochial?
Private school.
Private school.
Yeah.
And at that, there was no projected fiscal, there was a projected fiscal surplus in the development. Yes, any other question? Did they answer your question? I'm not sure it did.
Well, somehow this number 7 gets stuck in my mind.
Yeah, it is,
Last
7
meeting-
in the public school.
public.
In the public school. 12 total, 7 in the public school.
All right.
Worst case.
Yeah, and that was the worst case. It was from 3 to 13 total. And using 13, 7 were projected in the Chatsworth. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that. You're saying you expect from all of those units, some of whom have family of 6, so 4 children, 7 children?
No, what I think we were asked was, what's the maximum that could live there? And there are 4 units that have dens. My guess is that we'll never get 6 people to live here, but it's possible. It's legal. That's not what we envision. And again, we're no different than what was approved. That's what would have been there regardless.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
7 just seems
Yeah.
a little
What ends
low,
up,
considering
I'll explain it to you.
people can live
In a 1-bedroom, you don't get any children. So we're talking about 41 2-bedrooms. In 41 2-bedrooms, the odds are there will be plenty of children. What happens is that the average, and I'm talking about the average, not absolutely, the average family has more than 1 child. Typically what happens, if they have more than 1 child, by the time they have that second child, their first child is not in school yet, and they often move.
Okay.
Because we're not talking about children, we're talking about school-age children.
Right.
So in 3 bedrooms, you end up getting a lot more kids. If this were 41 3-bedrooms, the multiplier I think is something like 4 times as many kids per unit in a 3-bedroom than a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
School, again, I'm talking school
Got it.
children.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have another question.
Sure.
You were talking about the sale price is restricted for 50 years.
Yes.
I assume the income requirements are also restricted?
Yes, they go up with it. What Rose was saying before is that the incomes are based on the area median income. The area median income tends to go up as the CPI, the consumer price. Are we using the consumer price index on this?
Tied to increases in wages.
Okay, so the increase in wages tends to go up with the median income, so they kind of move lockstep.
And once you're out of the whole process, who oversees the resale of the units?
Rose.
Yeah, we've,
Sorry, I don't mean to point.
I guess not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will what will happen is if someone wants to sell, they will notify Westchester County that has a significant amount of funding in there. and then prospective purchasers will be qualified through us.
And on these developments I talked about that are older, Rose did the forever. After those were done, when people wanted to sell, they basically went through the Housing Action Council.
And I would also imagine there's a deed restriction in,
Yes.
something in the deed?
Yes.
So they pick up the title anyway.
Right, absolutely.
Bill, just to clarify on this question of income, people have to be qualified when they move in. But if they're living there, and their life gets good and their income goes up and up, they're not under any penalty to move out while they're.
What's different in a rental, typically that does happen. In a for sale, it doesn't typically happen, so no.
The requirements at the time the application is submitted for the lottery, for instance, what if you're due to retire in the next year, but not retired at the time of the application and the lottery? You project it?
You're talking now about the 5 units again, right?
No, well, you have a certain income, they're all associated.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
to-
thought you were talking about the, okay. Okay,
We're
Rose.
you're asking, what do we look at in terms of income? If you submit an application, you submit what your income is at that point in time, we project forward for a 12-month period based on whatever documents that you submit to it, like your W-2s, your tax returns. Now you're saying what happens if you're projecting you're going to retire 6 months down the road. We'd have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. We'd review that with our funding sources. There would have to be substantial documentation to show in fact that you are going to retire, and then we would have to make a decision. Well, there's a lot of ifs around that issue, so I can't give a definitive answer right now, but we would look at the situation.
By the way, one of the things I think we did not mention is that this is for first-time home buyers, number one. Number two, has to be primary residence. One of the things that often comes up that actually hasn't come up tonight is this seems like a wonderful opportunity as an investment. Someone buys it inexpensively and rents it out. That can't happen. This is for primary residences only. So just in case, like something you think about later. Yes?
You mentioned this is all because of the Flint Park
No,
settlement.
no. It satisfies the Flint Park requirement,
All right. Now
but that's
what
not why
about-
we're doing it.
What about the county requirement from the lawsuit? Is this also?
Yeah, this will, 46 of these units will count toward that requirement, right? 46? 46 units will count toward that requirement. I mean, keep in mind, we're a private developer. We have
I realize
nothing to
that.
do with the county. This is not a county development. We're doing this with county subsidies and New York State subsidies. The fact that the village gets credit for Flint Park is great. The fact that the county gets credit on the settlement is great, but we're a private developer. And it gets confused a lot. And I've seen written, I think here, I've seen once written, that the county's doing this development. It's not that at all. Yes?
Vinnie talked about wood-like, stone-like, stucco-like exterior. What substances are you using for the exterior?
Stucco, stone. Wood is something we hedge on a lot because actually wood for exterior trim is a really pretty terrible material, especially the wood that we now have left in the world. So we tend to use something that looks like wood, tastes like wood. No, but it's not wood. And from a maintenance standpoint, especially when you're up 3.5 stories, you really want something that's very low maintenance.
It would probably be the stucco material that we would use. That would work well with the system, with the insulation system behind it and things. So,
Any other questions? Okay, I wanted to give everyone our email addresses in case you have questions. Jim Wendling, which is Jim knows every detail. So start with Jim. If he can't answer it, I'll be able to answer it. We'll get you the answer. He's J Wendling, JWENDLING at wilderbalter.com. And I am Bill Balter, bbalter at wilderbalter.com. bbalter at wilderbalter.com. And I really will both get back to you quickly. Thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate it. It's great. We're very excited.